This is going to be a basic guide to aiming. We have a couple of very basic skills that aren't touched on in every guide, and the ones I'm going to link you kind of skip over these. And all of these are hand-eye coordination. And I'm going to show you why they're important briefly. This is going to be a very quick overview, but if you do these for like even a minute or two, or even some of them that I'm going to show you in Spawn, you're going to notice that quickly you're going to be much more accurate and comfortable. So the first thing we want to be able to do is draw a straight line around here, and you'll forgive my aim because I'm in a wrist brace actually. So we want to find something that we can use as a reference and just trace a straight line at a smooth speed, right? And the video I'll link you will comment on this, right? That's the first thing we want to be able to do. The second thing we want to be able to do is move from point A to point B consistently. Now, it's important that you do these exercises slow because it's more important that you do them accurately than you do them quickly. You will develop speed with time, but if you want to develop accuracy, you have to make an intentional effort to do things properly. Then we can move from point A to point B to point A, and then we can draw a line from point A to point B to point C. That's going to be your first thing, is just basic mouse control. And if you can do this just for any amount of time intentionally, that's going to be great. The next thing to do is we got to keep our mouse or our aim on a singular point. So I'm using this intersection while we move, right? And you don't need to be shooting. Just keeping it on a singular point. Again, I'm wearing a wrist brace with double my normal sensitivity, so this is challenging, but you get the idea, right? This is also to develop another important skill that we're going to add here in a minute with the examples. And basically, you're trying to build the muscle memory to where every time you change direction, your hand knows the speed in which you're going to start moving the other direction, so you switch them both at the same time to maintain target. You can do these exercises closer because it's going to change the amount of distance you need to move your hand once you're more comfortable, and you can also do them further away because it gets a little bit harder. Okay, so after that, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the practice range on. You can leave the timer at about a minute. I've got the bot set to 10 meters. And then what we're going to do, actually I'm going to put him on moving. I'm going to show you the next one, and this starts putting together what we've demonstrated so far.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So I've got him moving, right? I want to mirror his movements. This is called mirror strafing, and it's exceptionally important for controller players. And what this allows me to do is aim less. See? Right? When he's running in an obviously straight line, I don't need to move my aim anymore. So I just need to move on target and hold down the trigger. Okay? Move on target, hold down the trigger. Now, the other thing to worry about on this is unless you're on target, try not to hold down the trigger. With any character, if you're not on target, you shouldn't be shooting. If you're playing a semi-auto character like Hela, you don't want to hold down the mouse button. So on a tracking character like Punisher with this here, we want to maintain target, and when we're off, we want to stop firing and reset. It's amazing how much the 10 bullets that you save are going to end up making the difference in a lot of fights. It's going to be similar with this shotgun. And all we're going to do is just tapping the trigger, not holding it down. Because when you hold it down, you have to make these weird timed adjustments. And what you're doing is, if you miss during that, you've missed an entire round. It's better and going to get you better results if you intentionally aim instead of just holding down and missing one, right? So hitting the shot is always going to be more DPS than missing the shot and then having to wait or wasting ammo over time. Especially with characters with limited magazines like Hela. She only has a few rounds and her reload takes forever, right? the next thing to work on is going to be counter strafing.
4, 3,
And the point of this exercise here was to do all of these together, right? Because I need to keep it on target while I'm doing that. Now, counter strafing is more defensive. You do mirror strafing when you're at an advantage as far as shooting. Counter strafing is the slightly more defensive example, right? And all I'm practicing is moving my hand with the target at the same speed. That's all I'm trying to do is keep it on target. And I'm doing a terrible job at this because of my wrist, right? But you're seeing the idea where now, because I know how fast I'm moving here, I can add in this guy and make it a little harder, but I know when I'm going to change directions, which leads us to the more defensive motion. If I know that this person has an advantage in the fight, but I still need to fight them, this means that I've practiced the other drill, which is doing strafes and changing the mouse angle while I'm strafing. They don't know when I'm going to change my motion, but I do, right? So I know that if I'm on target, that I can swap back and forth between where I'm aiming because I can move my hand counter at the exact same time because I've practiced that, right? After this, and I'm going to actually move the bot further back for this one just a little bit. You want to try these from other angles because it changes. It has to do with the way that the 3D scene is rendered on a 2D plane and how like you can't like your mouse is locked to the 2D plane. It's complicated and I can't properly explain it. But when you move up, you're moving your mouse different at the same target. So when you're up, let's just try for now to keep tracking on the same target as it's moving. And it's okay to be like using a large target now, right? And all we're doing is we're just trying to keep on target for as long as possible from different angles, right? And this will be good for any character you're practicing. You can put the timer on. I would suggest no more than a minute. Just do each of these drills. Do the mirror drill with the trigger discipline, and see how many you can get in 1 minute. And just use one bot so that we're really focusing on aim and trigger discipline. And then you can use that as kind of a baseline to see how much more accurate you're getting. Then we can move to counter strafing or whatever, but at least do being on target and then do tracking on them from a standing position.
3, 2, 1.
You'll see when he moves in long lines, that's where the horizontal practice comes in, right? So that's this one right here. Work on those for a couple weeks. Even if you come down here for like 3 minutes and you just do this, do this, and then find this guy, and then you can mirror him.
New entry in the war journal.
Or you can start using some strafing in here. Those will be your absolute basics. Now, the video guide that I'll link you is going to build on these, but I would be careful of just overloading yourself. Literally just start with this, a straight line, moving from point to point, strafing while holding a specific point, and then doing the same thing on a moving target on the bot, and then mirror strafing. That's how I would start. And I would do that, like, if you can do it for like 2 or 3 minutes every time before you play, maybe every other day, you're going to notice quite quickly that your aim is going to improve. It's all about building hand-eye coordination. Now, I don't know how big your play area is. The default sensitivity of most shooters is just way, way, way too high. So I don't know what your sensitivity is. Mine is usually 1.5 at 800 DPI. because I have a large mouse pad. At minimum, what you should be able to do is a 180, depending on your character. Sniper characters, if you're a specialist, can get away with slightly less than that, but you at least want to be able to see behind. Characters like Psylocke need to be able to do more than that in one motion, because for Psylocke you would like do something like, or Black Panther, they want to be able to 180 really quick so that they can go through a target twice or make different decisions as they're like trying to leave or use their mobility cooldowns. They need to stay on target, so they need to be able to whip quickly. Let me see what other characters you said you liked. So we'll talk about Hela here. Hela's going to be like, it's all the same skill sets. Now, bad habits people have are jerking their crosshair everywhere. Hela is also hit scan, and that was the goofiest thing. She just, with the way that the trail from her projectile or for her attack is, it leaves you to think that it's a projectile, but it's not. This is hit scan. Hit scan is if you're on the target and you push the button, no matter what range you're at, the target takes damage. The game asks itself, is it on target? If not, miss. If yes, it hits the target, right? Now, I have some bad habits ingrained from Counter-Strike where I overflick a lot, but it's best to do exactly what we were doing and make sure you click the button every time you want to shoot. See, I have correction flicks because I'm not. It should just be as close to exactly what you're doing with the Punisher as possible, right? Because this doesn't do much damage. What this is supposed to do is refill your resource, which is your Thor force. I would recommend, if you want to do Thor, he's, like I said, basically a fat DPS. So he has to play differently than other tanks. You want to be able to isolate characters as you can. You need to know which fights you can take. But very quickly, your hammer throw is not really for damage. It's to get your resource back so that you can continue to do this, which is your damage. It gives you 150 shields and lets you absolutely dumpster people, right? The same with your lightning confinement, unless you're absolutely sure you're going to need it. It's more about getting your Thor force than it is getting the slow outside of like your ultimate, but you can check a guide on exactly how that works.
5, 4, 3.
The issue with dropping lightning confinement is, like I said, anyone inside it, when you put it down, it gives you a Thor force, and it doesn't do a tremendous amount of damage. See? And it only does damage or slows when they walk through the barrier itself. So what that's more used for more often is I've busted my my Thor force, right? And then I'm out, and I still want to keep going. So now I can combo these abilities, get my 150 hit points, and get back into my swinging with my ridiculous amounts of damage, right? The other thing you can use it for is to almost guarantee that unless they use a movement ability, you're going to slam them with your ultimate, because if they do try to cross that boundary, they are still slowed. But really, what it's mostly used for